Well, hi again, everybody. My name is Greg Anderson, and this is the Good Timekeeping Show with Greg Anderson. Hey, I think today it's about time for another watch review. I have a few watches in the case today, but I really want to concentrate on this one right here. Now, as you can see, it's almost, well, it looks an awful lot like this one right next to it. The display looks like it's just exactly the same, maybe some color differences, but they seem to be the same watch. As a matter of fact, they do have all the same functions, so you could pretty much get by on the, if you knew how to run one of these watches, you could run the other one as well. The only real difference here, and the reason they are different modules, is that this one here, this is the GW7900, has a separate button just for the light, whereas this one here, the light is incorporated into this button here on the upper right side. This is the Gulfman GW9110, and costs a little bit more than this one, and let's get right into it. Now, there are some variations of this out on the market, maybe some different color schemes, the case perhaps, and also you can get a reverse LCD versus this more traditional LCD. So this has dark characters against a light background, whereas the reverse LCD would be lighter characters against a dark background. I tend to prefer the regular LCD display. I think it's a little bit easier to see in most situations. So the features on this one are, first of all, tough solar. So you don't have to replace the battery on a regular basis here. What you do is you just let it be exposed to normal everyday lighting conditions, and there's a solar cell built into the face of the watch. So with just that everyday exposure to regular lighting conditions, that's going to be enough solar power to keep the battery charged on this. Or some people say, well, it's a capacitor technically, but your power source is going to be recharged automatically. Another feature everybody seems to love is Multiband 6. So that means there's a built-in radio receiver in this watch, and it picks up atomic time information from any of 6 atomic time transmitters in different parts of the world. So depending on where you are, you'll pick up the atomic time information from those transmitters. So there are 2 in Japan, there's 1 in China, 1 in the UK, 1 in Germany, and the 6th one, my favorite because it's the one I use, it's WWVB in Fort Collins, Colorado. So in North America, you can use WWVB with this watch. And, well, you have to be a little bit careful with reception conditions. I mean, you may be far enough away from a transmitter that you're going to have intermittent reception. Maybe if you've got things in your home that would create any kind of radio reception interference, that could be an issue as well. But typically you'll be able to find a spot where you can leave this overnight and it'll be able to set itself, because reception is best overnight, and that's when it will automatically try to set itself to the right time. It receives time and date information, and so with any normal usage, you'll never have to set the time on this unless you change time zones. Otherwise, remember, this is from the Gulfman series, so it's going to be tough. It's got a 20 bar water resistance. That's 200 meters. I don't think you're going to get down to 200 meters and cause any trouble with this watch. I mean, you'd cause more trouble with yourself if you got down that far, right? Also rust resistant. On the back of the watch, it says it's a titanium back assembled in Thailand. So a lot of things to like about this watch already that I've told you about. But let's get into some of the other functions of the watch. Here on the display, this thing here that looks kind of like a wave, that's a tide indicator. So this will actually show you when it's high tide and low tide near your time zone that you've set it to. Also, right here, and this is where you can actually search ahead to see what the tide is going to be at different times of the day in your location. If I push this button here, right there, it tells you the phase of the moon, so it's going to show you that there, and telling me that, well, we're just about to a new moon because the moon is 26.6 days old in here. And also, again, you can scroll ahead using this button here, go ahead a few days and find out what the phase of the moon is going to be coming up later. And then this little indicator right here will show you what the moon is going to look like on that day. So the phase of the moon displayed right there. Okay, next up, I'll go to the next mode. This is a world time mode. And so you can select another time zone for some other part of the world and see what the time is over there. By default, it's UTC or Greenwich time. But if I push this button on the lower right side, I can scroll ahead as though I'm going eastward on a map, and it'll show me the time in, one of those other time zones. If I get a little bit lost around the world and I want to just go back to default UTC, push these two buttons on the right side simultaneously, and there you go. It takes it right back to UTC. But, if you do select another time zone and just leave it there, then the next time you go to the world time mode, it's going to take you back to that time zone you selected. All right, next, alarms. So you've got 4 regular alarms. They go for 10 seconds once a day when you've got them set to go. So 4 alarms that do that. And the 5th alarm is actually a snooze alarm. So with this one, it goes for 10 seconds. And then 5 minutes later, it'll go off for another 10 seconds. And 5 minutes after that, another 10 seconds, up to 7 times. So that means between the first time and the last time it goes off, it's 30 minutes. So you have that you can activate. And then the next one here is the hourly signal. So it'll just beep every hour on the hour if you have those turned on. Right up here on this line here, it's got a place where you can indicate if any of those things are turned on or not. So for example, if I go back here to alarm 1 and I turn it on by pushing this button up here, then it says it's on, and also just a little LCD line appeared over an alarm to tell me that at least one of the alarms is set to go. And if that alarm that's set to go happens to be the snooze alarm, then that little SNZ for snooze also indicates that that's going to happen. And then if I turn on the hourly signal, then there's another little indicator telling me the hourly signal is going to make a little beep, every hour on the hour. Change modes, and the next one happens to be the stopwatch mode. So this is a 24-hour stopwatch, and it's pretty standard as far as stopwatches on digital watches go. Hours, minutes, seconds, and hundredths of a second. And also this little thing that looks like slices of a pie gives you kind of an animated indicator that your stopwatch is running. That 10 little slices, each one indicating 1/10 of a second. So every second, those slices either begin to appear or disappear. And of course, if you want to do a split time there, use this button here on the upper left side. And, the alarm is still going. If you want to stop it and reset it, stop it there and reset it using that button up there. So yeah, pretty standard stuff. If you do leave it going for 24 hours, it will reset to 0 and keep going. So you can time things that last 24 hours or more, and you'll just have to keep track of how many days it was when the watch will keep track of hours, minutes, seconds, and hundredths of a second in the stopwatch mode. Then there's a countdown timer. So you can set that for any number of hours and minutes to count down. In this case, I've set it to 10 minutes, and it just, counts down. And in this case, these little slices of the pie, as you will here, those are going to count down one slice every second as they go down there. Now, this is also, up to a 24-hour countdown timer. So if I use this adjust button up here to set it, and if I set it down, I take it down here to all zeros, and then I start it, that's a true 24-hour countdown timer. So I have that ability if I want to count down something, up to 24 hours. And so yeah, now we're back into the regular timekeeping mode. So those are all the main modes. Now, one nice feature about when you're in this regular timekeeping mode, you see it's showing the hours, minutes, and seconds here, the day of the week and the date, all in this display. And also it's got this little animated pie going on here. Every second makes a slice of the pie appear or disappear. And, that's the regular mode. But if I do press this button up here, see, that shows me the time zone I selected for my world time mode, and the time in that time zone. So I can have local and world time, those two time zones displayed at the same time if I want to, by, again, pushing this adjust button to either have all local information or, that split information there. All right, so if this were a brand new watch and I'd never set it up before, here's what I would do. From the timekeeping mode, I'll hold down this adjust button right here. and hold it down long enough. And now it's going to allow me to set my home time zone, in this case, the Mountain Time Zone in the United States. So it says DEN for Denver, and I can change that. If I push this button here on the lower right side, it's as though I'm going eastward on the map to select some other time zone as my home time zone. Or let's see, I can go westward on the map in this mode by pushing the upper right side button. I'll take it back to Denver because, that is my home time zone. Okay, push mode button again. And this is where, if you notice right here, it's flashing the letters DST for daylight saving time or summertime. And so I can set that to change automatically when it receives its atomic time information. Or if I push this button down here, I can set it to always be off. So it's not going to display daylight saving time at all. So if you lived in Arizona, you might leave that off all the time, or you could leave it on all the time. So those are your options: automatic changing, or off all the time, or on all the time. And I'll leave it on automatic because where I am, we do have daylight saving time going on and off different times of the year. Okay, next mode here is, again, a 24-hour or 12-hour display mode for your local time. And this actually affects the display mode in all of the modes. So you're going to either have a 12-hour AM, PM display in every mode, or 24, depending on what you've set right here. Next one up is, now this is where you can manually set the time and date if you want to. You can do that, but well, the next time it receives its atomic time information automatically, it's going to override whatever your manual setting was. So just keep that in mind. So if the watch is not able to receive the atomic time information for some reason, maybe you just have bad reception where you are, maybe you live in a home that's all made of steel construction, and you live in a Faraday cage and there's just no radio reception. This will run as a normal quartz watch. And it will be accurate to within 15 seconds a month with its normal quartz accuracy. But if it is able to receive atomic time information every day, then it's going to be accurate to within a fraction of a second every day, and you'll never really even know that it's off at all. So anyway, this is where you can manually set seconds, hours, minutes, the year, the month, and the day of the month. Right there, if you do want to manually set those for some reason. Okay, now this is what's called, key or mute function. So I'm going to point the microphone at the watch real quick and let you hear that every time I change modes, see, there was a little bit of a beep. So if I don't want it to beep every time I change modes or when I start and stop the stopwatch, I can go back here to where it says key. It looks like a little musical note, and I can change that to mute. And so when I've changed that to mute, it's not going to beep every time I change modes or every time I press a button. It will still have a sound. It'll make a sound when the alarm goes off, or it'll make a sound when the countdown timer gets to 0, but it's just not going to beep all the time if I leave it in mute. So I have that option right there if I want to. This is where I can set the backlight to either come on for 1.5 seconds or 3 seconds. Now, a lot of times with digital watches, you want to, you don't want to use the backlight too much, or it's going to drain the battery. But in this case, since it's rechargeable using solar power, I go ahead and I leave this on 3 seconds for the backlight. And I just make sure that I keep it charged. So you've got that option there. Next thing is power save. So what this means is that after 10 p.m. in normal situations, if you leave this watch in the dark after 10 p.m., then if it's in the dark for, say, an hour or so, then the display will go blank in order to save power. All the other functions will still work, but the display will go blank. So that's the power save. And if you leave it in the dark for a whole week or more, then the display is going to go blank, and also some of the functions will stop. Like it won't do atomic time reception anymore if you leave it in the dark for a week. So, that's just a way to save power in case you're not really using the watch. If it goes into power save mode and the display goes blank, it's very easy to take it out of power save mode, or make it come back out of power save, I should say. And the way you do that is you press any button, that'll take it out of power save mode, or you expose it to a bright enough light, and once it knows that it's in a brightly lit situation, the display will come back on. Or it has a little bit of a sensor inside, so that as you move your wrist to look at it, it knows that you've moved your wrist. So if you shake it, just give it a good shake, that will usually take it out of that sleep mode as well. And I told you it'll go into power save mode after 10 p.m. Anytime between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. it'll go into power save mode. It'll come out of power save mode when you make it do something. But if you, let's say you're a night owl, you work the graveyard shift, and you come home at 6 o'clock in the morning, you take your watch off and it's in the dark, it's not going to go into power save mode between 6 a.m. and 10 p.m., even if it's in the dark. Okay, those are all of the setup screens. So I'm going to go back in here. I guess I prefer 12-hour mode. I'm going to set it there and take it. There we go. Now we're back into regular timekeeping mode. I'm going to show you just one more function that I don't think I'm ever going to access, but you can if you feel you need to. Let's say you've gone in here to the tide display and you think that it's wrong. See, this is telling me high tide is going to be at 6 a.m. today, and I can scroll ahead and it'll show me how the tide changes throughout the day as I scroll ahead. But maybe you're near a body of water, maybe you're an expert sailor, and you know that this doesn't seem to be right. By the factory default is it's set up to show you the correct tide display. But if it doesn't seem to be right to you, you can adjust that. And what you do is you hold this down, this adjust button, you hold it down long enough. And this is where you can, right now it's showing high tide is going to be 5:26 there. And you can scroll ahead or back and adjust what that setting is if you think it's wrong. And if you've adjusted it, but wait, now you want to take it back to factory default, you push these two buttons together, and then it takes it back to factory default. So again, you can adjust that if you feel you need to. I'm really not an expert on tides, so I'm just going to leave it at the factory default. Well, another thing is here in the moon display, if you want to, let's go back into here. Right here, depending on whether you're in the northern or southern part of the world, you can reverse what this looks like. Now, to me, this looks like it's we're almost at the new moon, so therefore when I look at this, the moon is going to be mostly dark, but I can reverse that, and depending on whether you're north or south of the equator, I guess, that's where you can adjust that if you think that display is not correct. And you know what, there's one more thing I want to show you about setting these things up. Here, wait, okay. When I'm in this world time mode, let's say that right here it's set for Stockholm, and it's showing me the standard time for Stockholm, not daylight saving time or summer time for Stockholm. But if I know that that it should be showing daylight saving time in that time zone, I can manually activate that by simply holding down this adjust button, and if I hold that down long enough, then DST appears there. And now, rather than standard time for Stockholm, it's going to be DST, or I can change that back by holding that down. So again, some of the, especially with your home time, it's going to try to automatically adjust for daylight saving time. But if in this world time mode, it's not automatically adjusting, that's where you can make that change. Okay, so right down here where it says L, M, and H, that's indicating your battery charge. So if it's really low, then this little thing right here is going to light up and say charge, and it's going to shut down some of the functions of the watch if it's a low charge, and tell you, hey, get this thing exposed to some light and charge it up, will you please? Also, if it's on L for low, some of the functions are going to be disabled until you can charge it up. But if it's on M or H for medium or high, then all of the functions will be available. And in this case, it's up there at H, so I'm in pretty good shape on my battery charge state. I can keep that topped off, and all of my functions will be available there. Also, I talked about atomic time reception. So right here, if I push this button on the lower right side, it says get, and it has today's date, and it says 12:04. That indicates 4 minutes after midnight. And that means that it did its automatic time reception just after midnight today. And that's good. That's what it's supposed to do. In fact, it will start at midnight to try to receive atomic time information. And if it's not successful within about 5 or 10 minutes, it will stop. And it will try again 1 hour later. And if it's not successful, it'll try again after that, up to, I guess it's 6 times. But if it's successful on the first time, then it won't try again until the next night at midnight. Or if it's successful on the third time, then it'll stop until midnight the next night. So this, I had pretty good reception last night, and it was able to set itself. And so if I wanted to initiate reception manually at any time, what I can do is hold down this same button. So I'll just hold it down for a few seconds. And there you go. Now it says RC, meaning the radio control, the radio receiver is turned on. And there's the current time. And it says L1, level 1. Level 1, not very good, but it jumped up to L3. So level 3 is the best reception. And if it's on L3 reception, that's pretty good. It could take, anywhere from 2 minutes up to maybe even 10 minutes at level 3 to properly receive its atomic time information and set itself to the right time. And right there, you got a little blinking icon there to indicate that it's trying as well. So L3 and that together show you that it is trying to receive atomic time information. And after it has successfully received atomic time information, that little icon will stay solid right there on the face of the watch. This is what it looks like when the backlight comes on. And well, let me show you. There's an automatic feature for the backlight. So if I hold down this light button for just a few seconds, hold it down, and eventually, there you go, a little indicator showed up right here next to the letters AEL for automatic electroluminescence backlight. So now it's on an automatic backlight functions. And what that means is that when I'm wearing the watch and I just kind of tilt it up like this as though I want to look at it. Oh, where's my focus? Okay. It senses that movement, and when I move it to that position, the light comes on automatically. It's not working right now because this is a well-lit area, but when it's in a dark enough area and I do this little movement here, that light is going to come on automatically without my having to press a button. Let me show you that. All right, let's look at the back of the watch for just a moment. There you see, nice, classy looking, nicely machined titanium back that says Gulfman rust resist. Oh, I really like the back of that one. And this is one of those watch bands that has kind of a double buckle clasp there, so that's kind of fun. You know, it's not necessarily that much bigger than any other watch band and its clasp, but it's just, I don't know, it's kind of fun to have one with the double clasp like that. Let's put it on the scale and see what it comes to. Let's see, 57 grams here compared to that other GW7900 I showed you. Oh, look at that, 70 grams. And compared to like one of these square G-Shock right there, let's see, look at that. Okay, 48 grams. So 48, 49, whatever that one was. 57. And there's a heavy watch at 71 grams. Okay. Well, there you go. I hope that was helpful. Now, I saw some comments online. Someone was talking about this watch, and they didn't like the little red accents on the front of the watch near the bottom of the face. So they went into like some Casio parts suppliers, and they found a similar part from another watch that wasn't red, and they kind of took the case apart and swapped some things out so they wouldn't have that red accent. You know what? It doesn't bother me that much. I think the red is okay. So, there's that option out there. There are a lot of different color variations on a lot of these Casio products, but I stuck with this one. I'm happy with it. And if you find another color option out there that you like better, well, then more power to you. All right. Well, thanks again for watching this episode of the Good Timekeeping Show. And I will endeavor to have another one out really soon. Thank you.